Hi, GES first graders. I'm missing seeing you so much. I have a friend here, a guest, who wanted to pop in for today's lesson, and she misses you too. There's Carmen. Carmen has missed seeing you. You know, Carmen's used to seeing you every single month during your first grade year, and she hasn't seen you for a couple months. So Carmen asked if she could join in our lesson today. Our lesson is not from our Too Good for Drugs program. We have a different lesson. We're going to focus on self-control today. So Carmen is going to sit back. She's going to relax. She's going to listen to the topic that I have for our May lesson for first graders. So first graders, I want you to think for a minute about some of the rules that you have. We have rules at school, we have rules in our classroom, and I know you have rules at home. Think about why we have rules in place. Why are there rules in the classroom? Why are there rules at home? Think for a moment. Why do you think we make those up? So, having rules in place puts structure and guidelines so that learning can take place at school. And having rules also helps us stay safe. Many times it's just rules to keep us safe, rules so the grown-ups know where you are, and that's why we need to follow them. How do you think students feel when you're following the rules and when you know others are following the rules? I'm thinking most people feel in the green zone when they know they are following the rules, and same with others, because we feel calm and secure when we know others are following the structure that needs to be taking place. How do you feel if you're not following the rules, or maybe if you notice others aren't following the rules? I bet it's not in the green zone. You might have a different feeling that's not the green zone, which are happy, calm, focused, and ready to learn. Well, there was a class of some students. They were good boys and girls, but they just didn't always follow the rules. They lacked some self control. And since they didn't have that self control, their behavior often interfered with what they were learning in school and what they were listening to in school. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures and read some situations about these people who, again, are good boys and girls, but they just struggled with some self control. So this is blurting out Bill. So blurting out Bill, he doesn't use self control. If the teacher's in the middle of a sentence and Bill just interrupts to ask his question, or in class he doesn't raise his hand, he just yells out to ask his questions or make comments. You can tell that Bill is always thinking because he's involved and he's sharing, but his interrupting sometimes keeps him and the rest of the class, from understanding what the teacher is trying to say. So think about his behavior and think about, do you think it's a problem? It can be a problem if it's causing him to not get to hear the directions and not what the teacher, to not listen to what the teacher's trying to teach in the moment. It's actually great that Bill is always thinking and he's actually very creative and he wants to talk about the topic that the teacher is teaching about. So that's all great, but it's just important to know when to have self control and when it's appropriate to share. Now, there's another character that I want to read about. Her name is Social Sally. Well, Sally seems to know everyone and everything that's going on in class. She's always catching up on the latest from others. She's a great friend to be at, and she gets along well with others. However, Sally doesn't seem to care so much about learning because she's too busy chatting with her friends. If the teacher calls on her, she doesn't really know what they're talking about because she hasn't been listening. Her mind always seems to be on the latest social event, and she's always talking about what's going on. Think about that for a moment. Does her behavior affect her learning? And does it maybe affect the learning of others in class too? It's great that Sally has so many friends. It's just important for Sally to know when it's okay to talk to her friends. All right. Then we have class clown Claude. Claude loves getting attention from others. He is so funny and he's always telling jokes and he's making people laugh. He even makes funny noises when the teacher is teaching in class. I think he would even trip over his own feet and fall down just to make people laugh. Think about that. Is that behavior causing him to maybe not learn as much as he could? Causing others to not learn as much as they could? I do want to point out that it is fun to be around people that joke around and make us laugh. That is a good skill to have. But it's important to have self control and know when you're allowed to be goofy and make people laugh. One more person I want to tell you about, all right, Carmen? All right. This person is called Terry the Talker. Terry loves to talk and does so without thinking where he is or what's going on. A thought will pop in his head and he just turns to a friend to whisper and share. It could be in the middle of class that he remembers that a friend maybe left something at his house and he might whisper all the way down the row to give the message to a friend, even if the teacher's in the middle of teaching. Terry always has something to talk about to others. Think about that for a minute. Does that behavior affect his learning? So it is important to have good friends and to, socialize with others. But again, you need to know and have self-control on when is it appropriate to talk with others and share. All right. So sometimes our behavior in talking can interfere with listening. So as some of those stories showed, the people are in class, but they're actually not quite listening. And when they're not listening, they might miss important details on something that they're learning, or something that, directions for something that they're supposed to be doing. So our behavior can sometimes interfere with learning. So when this happens, we need to learn how to cool it with our behavior. So I have a paper that shows some cool it ideas with some pretend ice cubes on it and with some ideas on what we can do of strategies to help us when we realize we are not in self-control, when we are struggling with it. Sometimes we might even notice that our bodies begin to get silly wiggly. That silly wiggly movement is a yellow zone feeling, and that means a little bit of a loss of self-control. So let's take a look at some of those strategies that can help you. All right, Carmen? Okay. So we have some pretend little ice cubes. And what we could do is you could even, if you have a cube at home, like a Rubik's Cube or a box, a little tiny box that you could roll, you could even write down these on little squares of paper and tape them on the different sides of your tube or your cube. And then you can roll the cube and use, a strategy if you notice you're struggling with self-control. Now, I know we also have to have self-control for our rules at home, too. So not only is it important to follow the rules at school, but rules are important at home, too. Again, rules keep us safe, they provide structure, and they provide routine for us, and we all need structure and routine. So here are some things that we can do. So if you find that you're struggling with self-control, you can remind yourself of the consequences if you misbehave. So we always have choices and consequences. Good choices lead to good consequences, but not so good choices can lead to not so good consequences. Consequence is what happens after you do something. Another idea is if you notice you're so chatty and you just can't help yourself, maybe try to keep your mouth closed. If you're noticing that talking a lot is what's the struggle you have with self-control. You can ask your friends maybe to give you a signal, like remember not to talk. So if you're chatty, but your friends, you might say, hey, could you remind me that I'm not supposed to talk when the teacher's teaching? Your friends can give you a signal, maybe like this, or maybe just shake their head like not right now, okay? You can ask your friends to encourage you and also with more reminders about having self-control. Remind yourself about the class rules. Many times teachers have the rules posted up on a poster somewhere in the room or on chart paper in the room. Again, you even have rules at home, which they might not be posted, but you have them in your head. You know what you're supposed to be doing. Turn your brain on before talking. I really like the motto, stop and think. Kindergarten, first grade, you've heard that song. We've talked a lot about it with Carmen, that we need to stop and think. We do those hand motions. Before you make a decision, you have to think, is this a decision that's going to lead to something good, or is this a decision that could lead to something with a negative consequence? You can take a deep breath and slowly count to 10, because sometimes we just are starting to lose control, get that silly wiggly movement. We just need to calm our bodies down. A deep breath can get you back to the green zone to relax and be focused for learning. And the last idea to help you if you're starting to struggle with self control is to tell yourself not to talk now, but that you'll have a chance to talk later. Just because you have that idea of what you want to share in your mind doesn't mean that you can't share it at all. It just means that you need to wait till it's a good time to share it. All right. So those are some ideas to help you with self control. Again, it's okay to do many of these things. You just have to know when the timing is right. All right, talking to your friends, being silly, being social, and things like that. So, all of our feelings are okay. We talked about how do you feel when you follow the rules? How do you feel when other people aren't following the rules? Your feelings are okay. You're allowed to feel whatever you can, but it's just most important to make sure that we still follow the rules. So our behavior needs to follow whatever those rules are at home and at school. Your feelings are okay, but just follow the rules, and our behavior needs to reflect that. All right. So Carmen, what did you think? Did this help you with getting some ideas on some strategies? Okay, what strategy did you like best? I like that strategy too. Carmen said she loves the strategy to take a deep breath. And while she takes a deep breath, she kind of helps her to stop and think at the same time. So taking a deep breath helps me get back to the green zone when I'm starting to feel like I'm going to lose some self control. Carmen has truly missed seeing you, and I hope you're going to have a great summer. I'm hoping that these last 2 weeks of learning are wonderful, and I miss you dearly, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye, first graders.